finally did it. Got our lathe. We were able to machine some spacers to adapt this, I think it's an ATV wheel or a wheelbarrow wheel, some sort, with rubber tires. So now we can adapt this to our mobility scooter project. So let me show you what's going on here. So with the stock wheels, it's basically a tire molded onto the wheel here, and this tire is like a very dense foam. So what happens is we did a live rear axle, which basically means both wheels are tied together, they spin at the same time. So now when we try to turn, these tires are so non-grippy and dense foam that it pushes, so the tire doesn't actually grip the ground. So it made it very difficult to turn this. You'd basically have to turn like a go-kart, where you counter lean with the scooter to get the inside wheel to lift off the ground so you could rotate the scooter. So we were able to find these wheels, which were basically the same size as the stock one, but now it has air in it, real rubber tire. I think this might be a mini moto wheel actually, but anyways, so the hub of this wheel is wider than the stock one. It came with smaller bearings, so basically I was able to find bearings that fit the wheel with the internal diameter same as the axle of the mobility scooter. The only issue we had was now that this shaft itself was shorter than the wheel, so I needed to machine essentially a spacer to make this longer to properly fit the wheel. And then what I also had to do was machine a spacer inside here between the two bearings to keep the bearings from getting crushed when you torque it down. So that's pretty much where we're at. And then we'll have to get, well, I have other hardware, but we'll have to run a longer bolt to fit through this spacer and reach the axle. So I'll get out my bolt kit, mount this one up, and then I'll show you how all the spacers are once we get back inside the garage. Alright, so this is the bearing that came with the wheel. Basically, you can see the inner diameter was the only problem we had, and that was too small for what we needed. So this is a 3D print I did, and this would be the size of the axle. And you can see that it needed to be a good amount, or a lot bigger. So like I said, we found a bearing that with the right inner diameter, so there's the difference between the two. And then this was the axle, so you can see that fits. And then once we took apart the wheel, we realized that it had this in between, basically to keep the bearings from getting crushed when you torque down the wheel. So what we did was created a 3D print version just to verify the size is correct for the new bearing, and then we were able to just match it up, make sure that they're the same height at least. So after that we test fitted it, then we just machined one out of the lathe that we now have. So there you go. And then for the axle, it was a little short, so we need to extend it. So same thing, we 3D printed a sample, tested it. We found that the sample we originally had was a little bit too long, so then when we machined the aluminum one, we made it shorter accordingly to the size that we need, and then also fit. So yeah, so now I just got one wheel on. Now we just gotta do this one, so I'll push the bearings in. I don't use a press anymore, so what we're gonna do, just fit there. I'm gonna find a socket that sits the same outer diameter as this, and then hammer it in, and then we'll remember to add this in between. One cool thing I found was that with the stock wheel, they had these rubber rings around this inner spacer, and that basically just keeps it centered, so then when you are working on the wheel trying to put it in, the spacer stays in the middle, pretty close to in line with the center hole. So it makes it a lot easier than if you ever done like skateboard wheels. The spacer will flop around and then you'll have to kind of battle with it to get to line up. So yeah, we'll go ahead and assemble this and then get it on the other wheel, or the other side of the mobility cart, and we'll take it for a spin. Alright, there it is. So it'll still push a little bit when you're turning at low speeds, but you definitely don't have to counter lean as much as I did with the foam tires. So, and then changing these will be a lot cheaper. The foam tires, the whole wheel combo was $100 for each side, and I believe these tires were only 20 bucks per tire. So once we start putting more miles on this, we'll save a lot of money with tire changes. And yeah, this is pretty much complete now. We have a Jeep, the older Jeep rear seat from Smitty Built, I believe was the brand. And then my good friend at Kelly Built, local to us, built me a seat bracket to mount this to the mobility scooter. And then he also helped make a bracket for the motor mount for the brushless motor we have in here. And then we have the go-kart rear axle with the wide rear wheels. So I guess next we'll be making a 60-volt battery to fit inside of here. Right now we have two 36-volt batteries, which comes out to be about 40 amp hours in here. Our speed with that is about 20 miles an hour, so it's not too fast, but we definitely get a lot of range there. And then I just have a 60-volt 35 amp hour battery sitting right here, just for our speed test, but we probably won't have this on much longer since it takes away a lot of foot space. So yeah, here it is.